Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and we're about to get a little personal. Now, I recently got a comment on my channel from someone asking me, um, pretty much how I am able to afford video games in a nutshell. They basically said that they knew that it isn't easy, and it's not cheap living in New York, which it's not. And so they kind of wanted to know how it is that I'm able to, or I have been able to amass a collection, a video game collection, and still be able to, I guess, just handle, all of my other responsibilities. So we're going to get a little personal. Now, a few disclaimers, right? First disclaimer is I don't think that there is anything particularly unique about my financial situation. I think that there are a lot of individuals who have also made good financial decisions, and they're in a good spot in life. Now, the thing is that most of the people who are financially sound, or most people who actually have a good amount of money, will never say it. Like, you'll never know it. The only people who have money and make it known that they have it are famous people, rich people, influencers, and essentially just people who are looking for clout, people who are looking for that type of attention. But most people who actually have money, they really don't want you to know. They don't want you to know that they have money for a lot of reasons. One, they don't want to make themselves a target. And they typically are just trying to keep themselves hidden away, and not necessarily from strangers. A lot of times they're trying to keep themselves hidden away from their own friends and family, because they don't want friends and family constantly asking them for money. So, but I will say that there are a lot of people out there who have made wise financial decisions and have put themselves in position to be able to afford video games, even expensive video games. And this is why a lot of times when I talk about collectors and stuff, I talk from that perspective. I speak from the perspective of a person who has the ability to enjoy the luxury of collecting video games, because in my opinion, it is a luxury. So that's disclaimer number one. Disclaimer number two is that at no point am I trying to brag, be braggadocious, stunt, floss, flex, any other adjective that you can think of. At no point in this video am I trying to do that. I'm simply just trying to answer a question that I recently got on my channel. Now, with all that out the way, let's get into it. So there's no doubt that retro game collecting is extremely expensive, but there were a few things that I focused on before diving heavily into collecting retro games. The first thing that I concentrated on was my education. Education to ensure that I got a degree that was going to be useful for me with what I wanted to do with my life and with my career. So, and this part of the explanation is probably for the younger constituents of my audience. Focus on learning things that will make you money. That's really just the shortest way to say that. I concentrated on learning things that would make me money, and not make me a little bit of money, but I concentrated on things that would make me a lot of money. The second thing that I would say is that I spent a lot of my 20s, even my late teens, working really hard, working to build up good habits, working to build up good connections, so that by the time I got into my mid-20s, I had established myself and established a certain level of expertise in certain things that enabled me to stand out from my peers and secure gainful employment. So that's the other thing that I did. And because of that, because I did that, and this part speaks mostly to the question that I got. because of just consistent and hard work, I was actually able to buy my house in my 20s in New York City, and that's tough. That would probably be the one thing that I would say that makes my story a little unique. I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that have done that, so I know I'm not the only one. But doing something like that takes a lot of consistency and hard work. Um, and like I said, during the majority of my 20s, I didn't go out. I didn't really party. Um, I didn't waste money chasing girls. I didn't waste money at the club. I didn't waste money. I took vacations and I took trips, but I did it frugally. I don't want to say I was a hermit and I was just in my house all day, but I was just very frugal with how I spent not only my money, but my time and my energy. And I really concentrated on learning. And I'll say the biggest advantage for me was honestly purchasing my home when I did, because your greatest single expense is going to be the roof that's over your head. Now, a lot of you who watch the channel, many of you probably still live at home. But for those of you who don't live at home, if you rent or if you own your own home, you'll know that that's probably the greatest single monthly expense that you have, whether it's your mortgage or your rent. For most people, And because I was able to accomplish that at a younger age, it actually wound up saving me money in the future. Because if I had to, even if I had to purchase the same properties that I own today, um, I'd probably be paying 50 to 60% more than where I'm at now. So that was just a good investment on my part. And one of the biggest things is that even as a kid, I always tried to buy things that had value, either things that had intrinsic value or things that I could sell when I no longer wanted them. And that, even when you think about clothes, like a lot of the clothes that I purchase, I've always tried to buy pieces that if I ever said, all right, I no longer want this shirt anymore, I don't have to necessarily donate it or throw it away. I could actually put it on Poshmark or put it on eBay and sell it, and someone would want to buy it. Um, and that's just how I've been with a lot of things, from clothing to electronics, any of just my personal items, as much as possible, right? I try not to buy things that um once the money's spent, you can't recoup it, or once the money is spent, it's gone. And what are some things that people waste money on? Food, eating out, coffee, drinks, parties, Ubers, spending that's dead money. Like once you spend money in places like that, it's never coming back to you. Now don't get me wrong, you could always look at that too as well, you spent money to enjoy yourself. You spent money to have a good time. You spent money to make the memories. And you could say that, right? But there has to be a limit with that. That can't be a weekly thing, especially not in these times. You have to be just smart. You have to be comfortable with cooking at home. And I'll be honest with you, one of the things that I learned during 2020 is how much more I enjoy some of the food that I make at home versus when I get it out in the street. I really used to love getting buffalo wings out in the street until I realized I made killer buffalo wings at home. I used to love getting ribs out in the street until I realized I made killer ribs at home. Shrimp scampi, you name it. During 2020, you had to learn how to cook your own meals. You couldn't go out and eat like that. So that taught me a lot too. And so I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of backstory from me personally, because the question was asked of me personally. And I think, to be able to afford video games, retro games, and have a large collection, you have to have a good support base, and you can't just be starting this from scratch unless you have a bunch of money stashed somewhere or something like that. I don't come from wealth. I didn't inherit any kind of wealth. You know, I think they asked me, did I inherit a large sum of money? No, I didn't inherit a large sum of money. My parents aren't wealthy. I don't come from a wealthy background. I work hard. I take care of my kids. I do my part. You know, I maintain my household, and, you know, I don't go above my head too much. I don't, I try to be balanced. Plus, I'm at an age where, like, going out every week isn't like, I'm not at that phase of life anymore. You know, I haven't been in that phase of life for a while. If I want to go out and do something, like if I really want to spend some money, I'm going to spend that money and take a trip to Dubai, to Hawaii, to Italy. That's kind of like my going out. I'd rather not go out at all for 8 months and take all of that money that I would have spent going out every weekend and just spend it on a 10-day trip somewhere overseas. So it's all really about perspective and what you want to do. What I would say, I'll end it off just with a little bit of advice. If you're someone who's like following my channel and you're like, 17 to, 25, 26, honestly, your focus right now should be on building skills, um, learning, just learning about yourself, learning what you want to do, learning what makes you happy, and finding a niche, whether it be in the job market or starting a business or something that will set you apart. Um, it's crazy because I don't feel old, but if I'm being perfectly honest, the skills that I learned, 15 to 20 years ago are almost irrelevant now, because in today's time, the real skills that you need is you need to learn how to drive, e-commerce, how to have an online store, how to drive public engagement through social media, how to build an online presence, which is super huge. And part of what I've learned with this channel has been somewhat of an education for me. It's been actually a class for me in learning how to establish an online presence. And I think, for the younger group, I would say get your education, establish an online presence, learn about AI, artificial intelligence, incorporate AI into everything you do, because AI is the present and the future. It's only gonna, it's only gonna become an even more ingrained part of our society. So I would say learn those things so that you can develop a base of income, so that you can start building a strong base of income, whether that's getting a really good job or, like I said, starting your own business, starting a YouTube channel that you can start driving some AdSense revenue. I mean, if you don't have a YouTube channel, in my opinion, I think you should start one. I think everyone should start a YouTube channel, because there's always going to be someone out there that's willing to listen to you. I never thought that a faceless YouTube channel, where I just point my camera at stuff and just talk for 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day or 15 minutes per video, I never thought that something like that would warrant, 6,500 subscribers. I didn't think 6,500 people would really care to hear that. But I'm blown away by how many people tell me, hey man, I put your videos on when I'm driving to school, or I'll put your videos on when I'm on my way home from work, or, I put your videos on, when I just kind of want to jam out, or they'll tell me, I was playing some Call of Duty and I just put your videos on. I just, had your videos going in the background, or when they're working out, or whatever the case may be. You just never know. There are millions and millions of people on the planet, and you got to think, even if you captured the attention of 0.0001% of the millions of people on the planet, that's still an amazingly large audience, or an audience larger than you think you'd capture. So that would be my advice to that group. To the millennials and older, I really have no advice for you guys. I think that's really my age group, millennials and older. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of the guys that I see on YouTube that do have these larger collections, they're millennials and older. They're not really like young guys. They're older guys who 9 times out of 10 are established in their career. They're for the most part, financially set. They've got stocks and investments and things like that. And they kind of, whether they're willing to admit it or not, they do view video games as another form of investment. It is a way of diversification. It just allows them to get the best of both worlds. They get to relive their childhood, enjoy all the nostalgia while buying a bunch of stuff that holds value. So, and if you look, I mean, look online, look at some of the YouTubers with the biggest collections. I guarantee you, they're not like under 20 years old. They're 9 times out of 10, they're gonna be grown men. You know what I mean? Dudes in their 30s and 40s, and in some cases 50s, right? So, I would say, just getting back to me, and just answering that question, focus on you before you focus on video games. Play video games. If you don't have a huge collection, that's cool. Play video games. Do what you got to do. Emulate. Start small. Buy the stuff that's affordable. Buy the stuff that's within your reach. And then go from there. But having a lot of video games is definitely not a flex. I love to showcase my games. I talk about my games. I love having a lot of games, but it's not a flex. The real flex is being stable in your life, being able to take care of yourself, take care of your family, have stability, have a roof over your head, have food on the table, and being resourceful. You know what I mean? Because nothing's guaranteed. We could lose it all at any time. My house could burn down and I could lose all my games. I could wake up tomorrow morning and get a notice that I'm fired. My YouTube channel could get hacked and taken away from me. But if I were to lose everything, would I crumble and fall, or would I get back up again and be resilient? And I think that's just the biggest thing, is being resourceful, being resilient. And I think it's really hard to lose when you have those two qualities. So hopefully that answered that question. Little personal on a Monday night, but I thought that it was a good night to kind of have that conversation and share. For those of you who do have larger collections, or if you do have your own stories about how you've been able to afford some really expensive games, or where you're at, why don't you share it down in the comment section? Let us know down below some of the things that you've done to be able to build and maintain a collection, and just give some advice to some folks out there who are trying to figure out how to afford this hobby. What are some things that you suggest? Like I said, my situation is not unique. I am not a unicorn. There are plenty of people who have bigger, better, badder collections than mine, and probably have bigger, better, and badder bank accounts than mine. So I'm interested to know all of your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector, keeping it real with you on a Monday night. Take it easy.